So back with another planche update. Today I'm going to really focus on what I see as my weakness. I had a couple of really good sessions recently, got probably the closest I've ever got to the full planche. But I can see when I go into those harder variations that I'm losing the scapular protraction and my hip is closing quite a bit and I might have a little bit of a bend in the elbows. So today's session I'm going to be super strict and only go forwards as far as I can, take it to my max by having the arms dead straight, having full protraction. So it's going to be mainly protraction holds with toes on the floor and straight body position. This session I'm going to do today, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail of my actual sets and reps. So it's going to be a little bit more of a detailed insight to what I'm actually doing in the sessions. So I'm going to be doing lots of sets like this. So external rotation, pushing forwards into protraction from the start, lean as far forwards as I can, coming up onto toes, so trying to make sure I have that open hip position, arms dead straight, full protraction, now leaning forwards as far as I can, pushing up and forwards. And then all important, and I recommend you all do this if you're doing any of this type of training, is go back, check your video between your sets and your reps and making sure that you've got the correct technique that you're aiming for, because the intention doesn't always relate to what is actually happening. Especially something like a handstand, when you're upside down, you think you know what you're doing, but then when you watch the video back later, you realize it's not perfect. And that's what I've been finding with my planche training. Watch the video back later, I'm really pleased with positions maybe, but then I look at my scapula, look at the elbows, look at the hips. There's little things that I would fine tune if I was coaching myself. So really try and look at yourself like in third party. So what would you give the person on the screen in terms of feedback, and then try and implement that in the next reps and sets. So one thing that's interesting there, so that was the second set, trying to pull and push as far as I can in that direction, was I'm really feeling it in my stomach, in my abdominals. Now I think that that's how I press handstand. And it's not what I should be feeling in the planche. So I'm thinking I should be able to feel it more in my upper back in that protraction position, as opposed to feeling like stomach, like crampingness when I'm trying to pull up like I would do in a press. So like when I do a press handstand, the same thing's happening, but I'm trying to push up in this direction. So it's like I'm coming up here more, but I think the planche one needs to be there more in the upper back and shoulders. And I think that's the difference between full planche positions and tuck planche. Tuck planche, I can sort of do like a tuck press where I'm pushing up more with like the hip, upper like mid-back area, where with the planche it's more trying to pull in this direction in that way. Just a thought. So I'm trying to think of ways of thinking about like the intention when I'm doing it. It's really like going back to press handstand again. A lot of people when they do that, until they actually press, they can't understand how you press, like what muscles, what do you contract. It's very simple. If I contract my bicep, I know that I squeeze and just in this area and it can focus here. But when I do a press handstand, it's like what muscles are actually working. And the people that can press find it very hard to describe how you do that to the people that can't press. And then when it happens, you're like, well, you just do this. So I think full planche might be exactly the same. So until I do it, I'm not going to know. But so it'll be interesting to know from any of you guys watching, if you have a full planche already, how does it feel? What movement? Where do you feel the energy in the body? What's working? I'm guessing it's like going to be like the press handstand, and it's hard to describe. But that crampy stomach feeling is what I'm feeling at the moment. So same protraction hold as last time, but this time I'm going to go into a straddle position. Now, not a wide straddle position, so quite a narrow straddle position, like maybe a little bit wider than shoulder width, just to shorten that lever arm just a little bit and see if I can planche forwards much further, still keeping the straight arms and the protracted scapula. So toes are definitely feeling much lighter with that one. I'm now going to do the same setup, but I'm going to go on the band and see if I can use a light band around the hips, on both on the full planche and that straddle planche, to see if I can get a little bit of a lift off, but still holding the elbows full protraction. Now I have moved the camera back much further away from the planche position, just so you can see the height of the ring and height of the band. Now I've got this thinnest band that we have. And I'm going to take the ring up to start with to as far as I can reach. So we're looking at about this far over my head height with that lightest band. The band's coming to around bottom of my ribs. So you just want to have a rough idea when you're doing something like this of your setup, because obviously to progress it, you bring the band down or decrease the thickness, or you increase the band thickness and increase the height to make it easier. So this isn't going to give too much help. We'll see what happens. So around the hips. And I'm first going to go into straddle position, but quite a open, long position. So not a wide straddle. So that shoulder width position again. See if I can get a little bit of a lift off. So again, back to the camera, check that position, see what's happening. So looking at the video, it doesn't look too bad. I'm probably going beyond my capability at the moment with that long position because it's very, very close to the full planche in terms of the distance. I'm actually just going to try a full planche now as a comparison to see if I can get my toes off the floor. But I think that is just beyond my capability at the moment. So I'm starting to lose position. It looks like it's a little bit false. So ideally what I'm aiming for with the band is, if I took the band away, would it look like I'm actually holding a good position, or does it look false because the band is over helping me? Now that's only helping me a little bit, but it looks like I'm collapsing a touch. So let's have a go at the full planche, then we'll compare the two. And then I'm going to go back to some slightly easier positions, but see if I can hold that good position with the elbows and the full protraction. Yeah, same thing. That seemed very similar to that small straddle position. So now I'm going to back it off, try some positions like the frog or a slightly bigger straddle and see if I can go with no band. Okay, let's first try the frog position that I'm most comfortable with. This is probably my favorite position at the moment. So not full straddle, bent knees, but trying to open as far as I can backwards. I'm going to aim for about between a 5 to 10 second hold. Okay, so this position looks okay. The downside is my hip is coming up a little bit too high now, so I've got that definite hinge in the hip. I look like I'm protracting okay, so it's not full protraction, so I'm not fully rounded, which would be the ideal or my ultimate goal. Some of that will be flexibility and just conditioning and strength in that position. I'm just not strong enough for my body weight to get there. So I am expecting there to be a little bit of collapsing through the scapula, but the arms are looking near enough dead straight. I can't imagine getting them any straighter. But I'm pretty pleased with this position overall. Next, I'm going to try the same thing, but I'm going to go into more of a straddle position, but straighter body. So not closed in the hip in any way. And I'm expecting the hold time to come down a little bit. So maybe a 5 second hold. So again, out of comparison, like I did with the band, I'm going to do the same thing in the full planche now because I'm not totally happy with that, but it's okay enough to play with. I just want to do 1 or 2 of those per session because that's like my play. And then I'm going to go into 5 sets of conditioning holds with toes pushed on the floor, fully open hip, protracted position. I'm going to go 5 sets of those once I've just done this quick play session to see how close I can get to that full planche for 1 to 2 seconds. So that's my intention going forwards now, is to do more sessions like that. So I'm going to finish now with 4 more sets of those straight body protracted holds, trying to keep all those fine points in check. So dead straight arms, full protraction, and fully open hip, so straight body position. My intention at the moment is to carry on doing it that way. So 1 session on the floor, a day's rest where I do something else, and then the next day doing the same thing on the P-bars. So I'd be really interested to again hear from you guys. If any of you have full planche, or if you have insights or ideas or some feedback on what I'm doing, I'd be really interested to know. Constructive criticism is awesome, and just general feedback would be great. Thumbs up and subscribe will be appreciated, and I'll speak to you next time. Thanks, guys.